Well, hopefully the world won't blow up while I'm doing this, as we live in very dangerous and treacherous times right now, with a war going on in Ukraine and shit like that. So I'm here to provide, I guess, sort of a diversion from that type of thing. So, of course, we can't have one episode without my dog sneaking in here and bugging me, so go away, Boots. Anyway, the term B-movie queen, scream queen, whatever, has been bandied about for decades now. But when you think of it, who was the biggest draw of a B-movie queen back in the day? And by back in the day, I mean starting in the early 60s. Well, I had to make a little list of stuff here. And to keep this going on, back in 1966, there was a movie out called Fantastic Voyage, which basically had a spaceship, for lack of better words, and its occupant shrunk down to the point where they could be injected into somebody's bloodstream and travel throughout the body. Pretty dated if you look at it today, but what isn't dated is Raquel Welch's very tight-fitting uniform, which was the first thing that brought her to the attention of the fans. And of course, this movie starred Donald Pleasence and Stephen Boyd, and I believe that Donald Pleasence was the bad guy in the whole thing and eventually got eaten up by antibodies. So that happened too, and then we get dog number 2 coming in here. But anyway, 1966. I was 14 years old, and there was going to be a movie coming out called 1 Million Years BC. A sort of remake or revision of 1 Million BC from Hal Roach in the 30s or 40s, whatever this made. Of course, this is the new Blu-ray of that. And, you know, guys my age sort of grew up on that movie. But when you get the Blu-ray, you sort of see that they were actually killing the lizards that they tricked out for dinosaurs, throwing them into fire, letting them rip each other apart in fights and stuff like that. So, really messed up. So it's like 1966, I'm 14 years old, the hormones are raging, and this new movie, 1 Million Years BC, is coming out with dinosaurs in stop motion by the master Ray Harryhausen. So yeah, we go see 1 Million Years BC, and let me tell you something. I believe this movie caused more adolescent DNA to be spilled than any other movie made back in the day. I was a repeated viewer, obviously, because it was affecting me, and my mother was really, thought it was cute that I went back to see the dinosaurs 4 or 5 times. Well, I didn't really go back to see the dinosaurs, let's put it that way. But anyway, that was the segue, and Raquel became basically the face of the movies in the mid-60s to the late 70s. I mean, she didn't do low-budget stuff. She did big-budget studio films that basically were nothing more than big-budget B-movies that wound up playing in the grindhouses and drive-ins around the country. After 1 Million Years BC in 1967, she did Fathom with Tony Franciosa, sort of a spy detective type movie. Following that with Bedazzled, where she played Lillian Lust. And then there was a little trip over to Italy to co-star with Robert Wagner, Godfrey Cambridge, and the immortal Edward G. Robinson in The Biggest Bundle of Them All in 1968, where basically a bunch of inept criminals capture an American gangster and hold him for ransom. Also in 68, she co-starred in a big budget western starring Dean Martin and Jimmy Stewart, Bandolero, which was pretty violent for the time, and also starred George Kennedy and Andrew Prime. She played Maria, I believe, back then, and she was part of the jailbreak. She was taken along into Mexico with Stewart and Martin's characters. She also co-starred with Frank Sinatra in his detective film, Lady in Cement, which was also the big screen debut of Dan Blocker, Hoss Cartwright from Bonanza. It kept on going. 1969, she was in 100 Rifles with Burt Reynolds, Jim Brown, and that was sort of a spaghetti western, and there was a scene of her like half naked in the arms of Jim Brown, who was half naked too. Another one she did was Flare Up, another detective one, and in 1970, the universally despised Myra Breckinridge. In 71, her husband, I can't remember her husband's name, was Pat something. He got involved with Tygon Films, which was basically a British film company that was producing horror films. And they did a western called Haney Calder that was shot down in the Canary Islands with Robert Culp, Ernest Borgnine, Jack Elam, and Strother Martin, which were basically an outlaw gang, the three of them as like almost like the psychotic Three Stooges. Little continuity problem there because Jack gets shot in the leg, and in one scene the bandage is on his right leg, or left leg rather, and then next scene switches to on his right leg. Christopher Lee was also in this. This is the only western that Christopher Lee ever did. He's a gunsmith named Bailey hiding out in Mexico. And there's a weird cameo of Stephen Boyd as another gunfighter called The Preacher. And of course Boyd was her co-star in Fantastic Voyage. Interestingly enough, this was co-billed with The Legend of Charlie, and basically both films by Paramount, and the double bill bombed for some reason. I don't know why, because it's actually a pretty good western. After that, there was a lot of things she did. I'm trying to think now. There was The Beloved. There was Fuzz, that was shot in Boston with, again, Burt Reynolds, Jack Weston, Steve Ionnet, and Yul Brynner as the bad guy. They were all detectives. Of course, they always made light of Raquel's attributes, so to speak. What else did she do here? There was, a bunch of stuff. She kept on going. She did a roller derby movie called The Kansas City Bomber, where she actually had to learn how to skate. She was in both the 3 and 4 Musketeers movie, co-starring with Christopher Lee, Oliver Reed, Richard Chamberlain, and others. What else did she do here? One of my favorites that she did was Mother Jugs and Speed, this black comedy about ambulance companies that had Harvey Keitel, Bill Cosby, L.Q. Jones, Larry Hagman, and a whole bunch of other people. Crazy comedy, one of my favorites. Raquel stayed in the game up until the late 70s, then wound up doing a lot of TV stuff. And I believe she might have basically stopped acting in 2017. Huge legacy she left, and like I say, a lot of the movies that I just spoke about wouldn't be considered, Grindhouse movies per se, but they were all basically, like I said, big budget B movies that, worked better in the drive-ins and the grindhouses. Not to say they didn't go in the first run movie theaters also, because they did, but when people ask who was the original, B-movie queen, I'd have to go with Raquel. I mean, like I said, 14 years old, horrible way to be when you see things like 1 million years BC. Of course, Hammer did try to capitalize back on 1 million years BC a few years later when they came up with this one, When Dinosaurs Rolled the Earth. And this was, who was in this one? Victoria Vetri. You heard of her. This one, the effects were done by, I believe, Jim Danforth and David Allen, and the effects are good, but the movie kind of sucks. And the reason it sucks is because it's this whole sacrificial thing with throwing blondes into the ocean, and Victoria's a blonde, of course, but she escapes. Well, you don't really know what's going on because they're talking in that prehistoric lingo, but it sort of settles that, the one blonde that survived might bring about the end of days or something like that. So the whole film is basically them trying to get a hold of Victoria and kill her and turning the whole tribe against her. The animation's cool, but it sort of shits the bed when she makes friends with a baby dinosaur, and the baby dinosaur's Big Mommy, and she's walking around leading this big dinosaur. 1 million years BC it isn't, and it's, like I say, aside from, the eye candy of the girls and the animation, that's about it. There isn't really much to say about it. So, yeah, Raquel Welch, thank you for my adolescent years, shall we say, and thank you for a lot of really great performances in some really cool films. So, That's all we got today. All I can do is, at this point, advise everybody to stay safe, and I'm just hoping some cooler heads prevail, for lack of better words, because Putin is a fucking lunatic, and I really don't want to live to see World War III. Sorry. I missed out on the first two, and I can certainly give World War III a pass. So it's all hope that doesn't happen. So stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next episode. And thanks for tuning in, and thanks for subscribing.